पाजो गोबिंद पूल मात जाह मानस जन्म का एही लाह पाजो गोबिंद पूल मात जाह मानस जन्म का एही लाह गुर सेवा ते भगत कमाई तब ये मानस देही पाए इस देही को सिमरै देव सो देही भज हर की सेव सो देही भज हर की सेव भजो गोबिंद पूल मात जाह मानस जन्म का एही लाह.
So, welcome friends to another podcast in the Holy Truth series, given as always in the name of the Supreme Lord, who once again wishes to impart the very highest truth of what many call God, life and creation, to the sincere seekers of the world, especially for the modern age, that's further supported by the Holy Masters, perfect saints, and noble mystics of Sant today. Now this high truth of the ages is the noble path of Sant, or path of the true saints, also known as the universal truth, true spirituality, or true religion, that is so graciously gifted to seeking humanity by the great holy masters, perfect saints, and noble mystics in every age, who are themselves the true representative of the Supreme Lord, even today. And although little known among the masses, once encountered, a sincere truth seeker can easily recognize that this noble path, or true way, encompasses all true faiths and beliefs as a noble source of all, details of which can be found in our humble literature, spiritual centers, or YouTube channel, as well as in the Holy Discourse series of ISTAuk.com. But before I begin today's session of spiritual questions and answers, I would first like to make a short introduction about who we are and what we represent here today. We are the International Spiritual Truth Association, or ISTAuk for short, and although now global, we originally set up in 2016 in the UK by request of the Holy Masters of the day, who derived their authority from Great Master Baba Savan Singh Ji of the holy lineage of Sant in India, the Levant and Persia. Now our given mission is simple: to tell the full truth about true spirituality or true religion from the Supreme Lord's point of view, especially for the modern age, while also correcting the confusions of the past and even that of the present about what is the real truth. Yet this high teaching is not new. It's the age-old path of true spirituality, known today as the Holy Truth of Sant, which is in fact has been discreetly taught throughout the ages to the most sincere seekers of the time, alongside the more familiar religions or philosophical teachings that we are all familiar with. Indeed, Holy Masters tell us that the simple teachings of mass religion and mass philosophy are only there to elevate the masses to the position of higher truth seeking, so that they can understand and ultimately practice true spirituality or true religion. Therefore, our mission here today is simple: to impart the very highest truth of the Supreme Lord to those who wish to know, with all the love, grace, and wonder that such a gift entails. Now for those who do listen and take heed, Holy Masters tell us that they are indeed the most fortunate ones of humanity. As for myself, I am a sincere devotee of the very highest truth of Sant, who has given his life in the service of the true Lord. As such, I do not seek any recognition, praise, or reward, as I only act with the authority and by request of the Supreme Lord itself and the Holy Masters of today, to simply tell the full truth of God, life, and creation for the modern age. I humbly speak, therefore, as one who has been gifted with true knowledge of that high truth, and as one who lives in the Supreme Lord's will. Thus I offer my humble demonstration and knowledge to all who seek the same. Now, as a friend on this noble path to God realization, I only ask that you put aside my human form and instead listen to and take heed of the loving message that the Supreme Lord has to offer you via this humble form, who has himself been transformed by the Holy Masters of today. Thus I represent the proof that truly anyone can rise above their given karmic role to become truly noble once again by the true Lord's grace, if only they earnestly seek it. Therefore, everything I shall share with you today is a gift of wisdom direct from the Lord itself for the sincere seekers of high spiritual truth. In this way, I am a humble servant and a perfect friend, whom the Lord has gifted with direct knowledge of the holy truth, which I have been asked to share with you. So although I shall speak with the authority of one who has been instructed to do so by the Supreme Lord, please do not attempt to praise or glorify this humble servant in any way, for you too are all divine beings undergoing a human experience in this lifetime, though you may not yet be aware of this. Therefore, what is given to me freely by the highest authority, I give to you the same. In return, I only ask that you open your heart and mind to the holy truth that the Supreme Lord has to offer you. Now, for those who need further assistance, they may privately contact the main speaker directly via email or video by first subscribing to our valuable information service at ISTAuk.com and then requesting the direct contact details of our main speaker from our administrators. He will endeavour to answer all spiritual queries within 48 hours of receipt, but please be patient if he should take a little longer due to his busy schedule and sheer number of inquiries. So thank you. Let's now begin the question and answer session from our spiritual truth inquirers as well as the audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. The first set of questions are related to initiation. First question is the time and place of initiation also predestined? And why is initiation said to be the greatest gift in the lifetime of the soul?
Everything is predestined that occurs in this life. As Guru Nanak says, first the script is written in the forehead, and then you take birth to fulfill it. And everything is included in that script, including the time of initiation, the place of initiation, and even who will initiate you. So everything is predestined. Nothing can happen without the Lord's order. Because if that was the case, then only chaos would ensue. If even one atom could behave independently of the universe, there'll be absolute chaos. We could not have even planets, or stars, or structures, or life forms. Nothing could exist if it didn't come to order. And there's an intelligent design behind that order. And there's a script that governs the order of events. So yes, including initiation, it's predestined.
So why is it hailed as the greatest thing to have initiation?
Because since you come into creation from the higher levels of consciousness, You have spent many millions of births, many millions of lifetimes traveling through the drama of creation, witnessing the ups and downs of creation, going through all kinds of tests and trials and difficulties as well as pleasures. And by now, when you reach the human form, which only happens after tens of millions of births in other forms, you are now in a position to find the truth of it all, because you have forgotten all that. So you've got so involved with this play that you take it seriously. So when the part in the play calls you to cry, you actually start crying. When it calls you to laugh, you start laughing. You actually willingly take part and suffer the consequence. So when you become fed up, you've done all the rounds, you get to a point where you're truly fed up, deep within, not maybe mentally you're not sure, you're just questioning, but this is about the soul, initiation to do with the soul. So when the soul is ready to go home, it's done everything now, it's had its adventure, it wants to go home to rest. That's when the soul cries out for help within you. And that's translated as a seeker. The mind then becomes a seeker. And if you're fortunate enough to be initiated by a perfect living master this lifetime, then your time is over here in creation. Within 4 lifetimes or less, you will go home. Absolutely. So that is why it is such an important event in anybody's life, because your entire journey in creation has led up to this point. It makes everything worthwhile. If there was no end to it, if you were infinitely going round in transmigration, endless karmas, what we call samsara, if you're endlessly going round with the ups and downs of life, what joy will you really find?
So what about those people who are interested in the truth? They're seekers and they haven't got initiation, but they seem to be on some sort of path.
They carry on seeking. When the time comes, when it becomes earnest within them, when it becomes sincerely important above all else, then the master will appear. The master could be their neighbor, their friend, or somebody on a far off land. You do not know. The master will only make themselves known to that individual who's marked for them when they are ready. They say, in Guru Granth Sahib it says, when the chela, the disciple, is ready, then the guru appears, the master appears. Not the other way around. The chela cannot find the master. They can find many teachers. They can find many theories, many philosophies. But they can't find a true master. They won't recognize, they didn't even know what a master looks like.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Right, second question regarding initiation. I have read in books that from the time of initiation, the perfect living master puts their radiant form inside the disciple, and that stays with the disciple forever. But why am I not able to experience that in meditation and in my daily life?
You see, it's true that a perfect living master, and it must be remembered there are different masters in the spiritual journey. Sometimes they're of a lower order, middle order, higher order. We're talking here about a Sant Satguru, one who's a fully realized soul. Such a one, when they initiate a disciple, they place their spiritual form within them, because Guru is Shabad, Shabad is Guru. The Shabad form of the master, or the radiant form of the master, appears within that disciple, but that disciple may not be receptive yet.
But when you say radiant form, does it look like anything or feel
It looks like the form of the master in physical. Okay. Otherwise, how would you recognize them? So initially, the radiant form refers to the master's presence in the astral realm, which looks very similar to the physical, but much more beautiful. And because everything there is radiant, they've nicknamed it the radiant form of the master, or the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit, or whatever you like. The Shabad made manifest as the master. But this guides you from within. This master, whether you know it or not, guides you from within. And it steers the ship of your life across the ocean of the world in a subtle way. The master knows how much you can take, how much pressure you can take to change your ways for the better, to escape this world. Master never forces anything. And because it is so subtle, yet noticeable, coincidences, miracles happening in life, you don't know where that comes from. That starts after initiation. So when Master places his radiant form within, or his spiritual form, It is available for you to see through something called meditation. Only if you practice the holy meditation of withdrawing the consciousness to the eye center and cross the eye center, you see the radiant form of the Master. Up until then, it doesn't mean that he's not doing anything. He's still steering the life. It's just that you're not aware. You don't know. And when you're ready to withdraw from this world a little bit, you want to see for yourself, you make that earnest inquiry within, the Master's always there to greet you. Then you can ask any question you like. In fact, you won't have any question when you get there, but you can ask any question.
Thank you. I'm going to go on to talk about meditation now. And just to give you a bit of context, and the questions that I've got do relate to someone that has been newly initiated.
Yes.
Just so you get an idea of why they're asking these questions. Right, first question regarding meditation. I was initiated a few weeks ago by a perfect living master, but I was not able to see any light or hear a bell sound during initiation, and neither in my meditation. I have heard in discourses that the Master connects us to the Shabad inside, but why am I not able to hear it?
You see, initiation doesn't mean that you immediately go home, you immediately start connecting with a high spiritual truth. It means you're placed on the journey. For example, if I'm going to send you from here to Mumbai in India, I put you on the plane. Doesn't mean you're in Mumbai. You are traveling the journey there. So, depending where you are, you could be in America traveling to Mumbai, you could be in Gujarat traveling to Mumbai. A closer journey. Depending how close you already are, determines how quickly you will manifest this form within you, this Shabad within you. So the point is that the Master has put you on the path. And most people, just to comfort this one, most people do not see or hear anything straight away. Yeah. Because in this day and age, we have so many outside distractions that even when Master initiates somebody, they're not actually ready. They're just scraping through. Master's taken sympathy for them because he knows the onslaught of external attractions and allurements outside overwhelms them. But he still initiates them through his grace. Now that disciple may not have made the grades at the time of Guru Nanak or the time of Kabir, because in those days the rules were quite strict. The person had to demonstrate their worthiness by serving the Guru for 7 years and be tested along the way before they even got initiation. That's why in those days when they're initiated, they straight away went inside and they had all these wonders. And the books are written from that point of view, you see. That's why when Babaji says burn all the books, they're misleading in the modern age, I agree. Because those books are written from those days, time, just being recycled again and again. But times are very different now. Firstly, the Master has lowered the bar for those to get initiated, which wouldn't have made the grade 200 years ago or more.
But times are different now.
And the times, yes, and the times are different in the sense there's more distractions.
Yeah.
So these people have a little bit of a longer way to go. Like I said, if somebody's traveling from New York to Mumbai, it's going to take a bit longer for them than if somebody's traveling from Gujarat to Mumbai. Yeah, so they have to be patient and not worry too much about what the books say. Their own experiences are more important than any writings. The writings are guidelines, they are explanations, they are ideas, concepts. Everything is a concept until you see it for yourself. So they must follow the instructions given to them at the time of initiation, be an obedient disciple, create that earnestness, that yearning, that vira, longing for the truth within them. And when they do that, they get much quicker to the goal. So if they are really anxious to see the radiant form of their Master within, then they have to put in that effort. Effort earns grace.
Thank you. Can we use earplugs in the early days of meditation to hear the sound inside? Because with earplugs, we are totally cut off from the outer noises as compared to when we use our thumbs.
You see, there's a little problem. Here in the West, we want everything quick and easy, instant this, instant that. There's a reason why the thumbs are used and the fingers are used across the forehead, because the idea is to connect the sirat, the nirat, and the surat, the seeing and hearing of the soul together. So when you plug the ears and you touch the forehead, where the third eye is, together. Connect the two together. You're connecting the surat, the seeing, with the nirat, the hearing. So it allows that transmission of energy to work in your favor, especially in the beginning, which makes it you're more able to focus within and more able to concentrate. It actually works. When you put earplugs in and you're sitting comfortably, you will start getting distracted. Certainly, once you have made some progress on the path, then you can then start using earplugs if you want, because you're familiar with the whole thing. You're not likely to become distracted easily. But I would say that certainly using the method described actually works better if done correctly in the right frame.
I think it's good you did that explanation, because I don't think many people get the science behind it.
Right.
They just think, oh, you just got to plug your ears and block out the sound, and
that's
it.
No, there's a reason
the
why things are done the way they are, and it's this age-old reason.
I guess I'm thinking, when I was initiated, even the twice, that wasn't explained in that way.
Yes.
So
most learning's done after initiation,
Yeah.
because either slowly or quickly you learn, depending on the nature of your seeking. Those who are very earnest seeking, they quickly find out, even before. They know everything before initiation. They've read everything, they've asked everything, they've spoken to everybody. Others, they go along with it, it's an interest that they start the journey, and then they start making that inquiry. So yes, for a lot of people, especially in this modern day and age, they become initiated for various reasons. And for that, they then have to start finding things out after initiation, sometimes even years after.
Yeah, and that's the thing, where do you get that learning from?
If you have the yearning for it,
Yeah.
everything will be provided for you, don't worry.
Right, next question. Does the big bell sound come automatically to us in bhajan? Because there are many sounds inside that they are not able to pull our attention.
Yes, none of the sounds you can create yourself. They are all depending on the state of the mind. The more sattvic orientated, more balanced the mind, depending on the way you live your life and so on, with your diet, your health, your attitude, then this allows the mind to become more and more still. So when the mind is agitated in the beginning, you can start hearing sounds which resemble earthly sounds, like the chirping of crickets, the locomotion of a train, thunder, roaring of the oceans, wind, many things. Initially, which don't captivate you because they are of a lower order. They don't pull you anywhere because they don't come from a high place. But there is one particular sound out of these 3,000 practice sounds. We call them practice sounds initially. 3,000 of them. There's one which is called a big bell sound. And the reason they call that as a big bell sound, because it sounds like the peal of a bell. It's an unstruck melody, which they call unhad shabad in Guru Granth Sahib. Unhad shabad is an unstruck sound, and is the peal of the bell that comes from your own soul. And because it's coming from the own soul, it pulls your attention towards it automatically. You don't have to do anything. It's very automatic. So yes, this happens automatically. All you have to do is position yourself there with the right attitude at the eye center, and then just wait. Be patient.
Thank you. Next question. If one can hear different sounds inside after sitting in Simran for 5 to 10 minutes, do we have to sit in Simran for the whole 2 hours and then 30 minutes to bhajan, or can we shift to bhajan after a few minutes in Simran, and do we have to do the Simran every time before bhajan or directly sit in bhajan? I hope you've understood that.
Yes, I understand the question.
There's a bit at the end as well. It's just a statement.
Okay.
I understand that the main objective is to sit and listen to the sound coming from our higher self.
Yes, that's correct, ultimately. But to prepare yourself for that, the masters have devised various ways to calm the mind, or to stop the mind chattering away. And because the mind's usually analysing, chattering, thinking about something, we need to occupy the mind with something. So historically, masters came up with this idea of Simran, repeating names that have no connection with the physical world. Therefore, you cannot imagine something physical from these words because they have no meaning to you. They're also the names of the powers that are within. the lords within, and so on. So they have a double role. So by starting with the Simran, this allows you to focus sufficiently to hear the sound. Now, if during Simran, at any time, you start hearing the sound quite strongly and consistently, then you switch immediately to the bhajan position, the sound position. Because the objective of meditation is to catch the Shabad within. The Simran and the looking part is a preparation. It's a method of stilling the mind, calming the system down. It is not going to take you anywhere. It's just like sightseeing. It doesn't take you anywhere. It's the sound that takes you to such calm. The sound emanates from such calm through the soul, through the individuality. So the totality of consciousness generates the sound to the individuated consciousness called the soul. And the soul then sends that sound through into the mind realm. So this is the mechanism which pulls you back home. So it's really important that we practice the sound. Now, it's not the case that when the sound comes, you have to complete the 2.5 hours. What they're saying is, these are for people who hear nothing, which is most people. So if this one is hearing sound after a few minutes, they're very fortunate that they're hearing sound so quickly. For most people, that's not the case. So they have to do at least 2 hours of the Simran, the meditation, the light meditation, and then switch to bhajan, even if they don't hear anything. The reason for this is that this is a practice. They're trying to get into the habit of sitting first and stilling the mind, and then practice listening to the sound. Otherwise, if they don't do this, when the time comes that the sound comes, they'll forget to focus on the sound. They'll actually just look at it, and the sound will fade away. The bhajan position is designed to keep the sound powerful within you and to maintain it. So it is really important that you understand the nature of the bhajan position that's given to you and why you should do that, and about focusing on the sound. It is only the sound that sets you free, not seeing anything.
So should you do that ideally if you're going to meditate, like if you've done it for a while, is it better to do the sound meditation more?
Yes, if you can.
Okay.
But the reason for the Simran is because if you've been agitated by the whole day's events, you're not living a very calm, peaceful life, you need the Simran just to get your focus. Because if you try to listen to the sound because during the time of the sound, you can't do the Simran at the same time. Because Simran is generating sound within you. So the idea is you just listen to the sound. Now, that takes a bit of an art. That's why they say 2 hours of Simran, half an hour of bhajan. Why is it so much bigger? Because it takes that long for the average individual to get focused and calm sufficiently that they can start appreciating and listening to hearing the sound. So, but it's not absolutely necessary. But any meditation you do, whether it's even just for half an hour, you should say at least a third of that meditation should be devoted to listen to the sound, and 2/3 for the Simran. But in any case, the moment you start hearing sound strongly and clearly, you switch to the bhajan position even after a few minutes.
Great, thank you. I am not able to withdraw my attention from the body and surroundings through using Simran. So what is the right way to do Simran so I can cut off all my awareness from outside and the body?
Yeah, Simran, if it hasn't already been explained to them, Simran has to be done very slowly and very deliberately, making sure to pronounce each syllable so clearly that the mind gets wholly engaged in it. Because if you do it too fast, it becomes background noise. Your mind can then do 2 things at once. You can multitask, so you can start thinking about cooking the dinner, and at the same time you're doing the Simran. But if you can practice this, and this is a really remarkable thing, and people get really surprised all the time when I explain this. If you do the Simran deliberately, slowly, and pronouncing every syllable deliberately, your mind can't think of anything else. It's so focused on getting this right that it stills and it stops chattering. And it really does work. So yes, you have to do it deliberately and slowly, and also with feeling of anticipation, feeling of recognizing what you're doing, that this is something very special, and you're doing this because the master has instructed you to do so, and you're in anticipation of something to come. So when you're engaged with anticipation, you're chattering away, is engaged in Simran, and you're listening to that Simran within as well. So in that part, you're listening to your mind's recollection of Simran, because this is done mentally, not physically. When all the senses are engaged in this, you easily withdraw the attention within.
Thank you. How can we increase the time of meditation? I'm not able to sit for more than 45 minutes because there is nothing inside to see, only darkness inside and no bell sound. And they go on to ask, how long does this dry period in meditation last? They're just eager to see something.
Most people, when they're initiated, think that they have to immediately see something. They don't understand. The real secret is that once you're initiated, there's nothing left for you to do in reality. The whole process of practicing spirituality is just to occupy your mind during this life. Because if you say to them, now you're initiated, go about your business, don't do anything, these people feel, well, what is it all about? They lose faith. They don't develop that love and devotion. So they have to be given something to do, a practice that allows them to create that love and devotion for the truth and the representative of that truth, the Holy Master, within them. So masters devised historically various methods, including the sitting in meditation, doing seva, sitting in satsang, and all these various supportive measures to keep the momentum going within you of spiritual practice and bhakti, devotion. So, it's a very useful method and it really does work. But for some people, when they're initiated, they immediately withdraw because they've had to practice. They've done it all in the previous life. This is their second round. So they've inherited all that wealth and they can enjoy all the splendor and wonder. But yes.
Because they've said, they're not able to sit for more than 45 minutes.
It doesn't matter how long you sit, actually. If you only can sit for 45 minutes, then just do 45 minutes to start with. Yeah. But try to increase by a few minutes each time. Practice makes perfect. The more time you spend in it, the better it is for you. So if your objective is to find the inner truth within yourself, you need to spend more time doing that.
I personally think, this is just my opinion here, because they've said they can't sit for more than 45 minutes because there is nothing inside, only darkness. I'm thinking, you need to be patient. Yeah,
of course. That's what I'm saying. Sit as much as you can. Don't worry about seeing or hearing anything yet, because the real work is being done by the Lord, not by you. As I explained before, this practice system doesn't take you anywhere. This is all for the mind. No amount of spiritual practice takes you to Satgurus. Once you have been initiated and the soul is empowered, the pull between the master soul or the Lord and the individuated soul is occurring in the background at the rate your mind can cope with, regardless of your spiritual practice. Now, if, for example, you decide to engage fully in spiritual practice, you will be able to see all this happening for yourself. Plus, all your questions will be answered and even your life will go smoother. So from a practical point of view, the master said, well, do this practice because you're going to benefit from it in a worldly sense. Your life will run smoother, you'll be happier no matter what circumstances you face. You will even be able to go and see where you're at with your spiritual progress. There are so many benefits to spiritual practice that it is a very good idea. And particularly if you live in the Western world where there's so many outside distractions, you want peace of mind. If anything, spiritual practice gives you that peace and that joy that you cannot experience from the world. So it's a tool, a very useful tool. But real progress is made between the soul and the super soul. That happens independently of the jiv. The jiv is the character you're playing in this life that you have become identified with. That jiv will perish when you leave this mortal world. So the thing that doesn't perish is the atma, the soul. So this relationship between soul and super is what matters in spirituality. But meanwhile, what does the jiv do? The mind cannot sit still. It has to do something. It has to feel that it's working for something. So masters say, hey, here's the spiritual practice. Do this. And there are benefits for the mind and for the body to this actually. It's not just a wasteful time, because somebody might say, well, why bother with it then? Because actually it does help a lot in many ways. And when you try with and without it, you'll see your life is much better when you do the practice than when you don't do it. But yes, it's not going to bring you closer to your goal directly. But it's also a measure of that, because if you're able to sit and enjoy time with yourself in spiritual practice, this in a way determines how well you're doing spiritually, because it's a kind of measure, indicator of where you're at spiritually. So it's a very useful tool from that point of view, as well as providing the right atmosphere for you to live your life rightly and nobly. At the same time, you're going to benefit from knowing that you must be progressing well spiritually because you're able to sit.
Yeah.
So it's informative.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions related to the soul. Do souls feel any emotions once they leave the earth and move on to the astral level?
Souls don't feel anything whatsoever. Emotions are not associated with the soul, they're associated with the mind. The soul is always happy, always blissful, because it is absolute, it is infinite, it is perfect in every way. The soul is never tainted by its association with the mind. So the soul is always happy. The soul, though, has yearning, it has love, it has an appreciation of love. So the soul yearns to go back to the source of that love, to feel even more abundance than in isolation. That is the only thing. The soul has this yearning to go back home. Apart from that, it has no other emotion associated with the mind. So emotions are a very lower order of the mind. Higher than that is the intellectual mind, and higher than that still is spiritual or intuitive mind, philosophical mind. So the emotions are not something to be championed or desired at all. One must rise above them because they're very limiting. They're the cause of all the troubles we have here. Emotions are things like anger, lust, greed, hatred, and so on. These are emotions which are negative. And the positive ones of pleasure and virtues and everything take you nowhere. So what is the point of indulging in them? So the idea is to rise above these emotions and become equanimous, balanced. And once we live a balanced life, no matter what is thrown at us, good or bad, then we're in a very good position to do our spiritual practice well and to benefit from spiritual practice. So this is why the masters say don't engage or empower your emotions. And when you feel you're becoming emotional, walk away from the situation, distract yourself, do something. But specifically, if you're an initiate, you can do the Simran. The 5 holy names given to you are 5 powers. And if you feel yourself going down an emotional crisis situation, recite the Simran. Take a few deep breaths to calm down and start reciting the Simran within, and you'll find that the emotions ease away.
Thank you. Please explain about the journey of awareness of the soul from the physical plane to Satchkhand, and how long does it take for a disciple to reach there in human time frame?
I think I've answered this many times, but okay. Since the question has been asked, I must answer it. But I'm going to try and be a little bit brief because I know we have many questions. When the disciple starts their journey back home, the first level they encounter is the astral realm through meditation. Now, all this is done through meditation, withdrawing the attention within the body to the eye center and leaving the physical realm. Once they leave the physical realm, the first state they'll encounter is the astral realm, which is a carbon copy of the physical. In fact, when you get there, you will see that the physical is an exact mirror of the origin of it all, which is in the astral plane. So in other words, the entire timeline of events that is going to happen here is there in the astral realm. So what happens now is to project it into the physical. So the physical, you could say, is a dulled version. The way I equate it is this. You have the sun, the power of the beautiful sun in the sky, but the sun is reflected in a body of water. Now, if you only look down at the body of water and you say, there is the sun, you get an understanding that the sun exists, but it's no way as clear and as powerful as if you turn your head inward, upward, and see the sun in its full glory. There's quite a difference. But if you don't know anything else, you take the sun reflection in the water to be real. and you say that is the sun, and you teach everybody that is the sun. But you never turn your attention the opposite direction, 180 degrees, to look up and see the real sun. So when you enter the astral realm, what you see is the real source and wonder and beauty of the creation here in its finite glory, without any fogginess or obscurity. And then you realize that everything you were seeing here is dulled in comparison. It's like looking through a foggy glasses. Yeah? So that's the first thing that strikes you, the sheer wonder of the beauty of everything. So when you return here after completing your meditation, you see the world very differently. Firstly, you see that everything that is to come here is already being created there. It's already there, which is now going through the timeline of events. We're just going through. So don't take it too seriously. The second thing is you see how dull everything is here, because now you see the real thing. You see the real sun in its glory. The reflection now just seems dull. It has no pull. It has no power. It's quite flat, two-dimensional in comparison. And that's exactly what happens when you enter the astral realm. Now, when you enter the astral realm, I'm going to talk from the point of view of one who is initiated it, because the journey for a non-initiate is quite different. So let's say somebody's initiated and they've entered the astral realm. They will be greeted certainly by the radiant form of their master. So the master will manifest himself in this spiritual form. And that's when they'll know who their master really is. Many wonders occur in the astral realm. The most significant of which is when you go there through a process of meditation, meaning dying while living, the Ramduts or the Yamduts come to get you. Because after all, they think you've died. This is a rehearsal of death. They will automatically come to claim you. The Yamduts come if your life hasn't been so purely led, and the Ramduts come if you've lived a noble life. Yeah. So we call one set the Yamduts, we say they're demons, demonic type, and the Ramduts are the angelic type. So they come. Now, obviously, you're not dying for real, so they can't claim you and take you to the court of Dharam Rai. So what happens? The master appears and intervenes and tells them, no, this one belongs to me. Go back to your master. So then the Ramdut and the Yamdut go back. So that's the first thing you witness, who your master is. Because up until then, it's just conceptual. You think, oh, this is a man, he's got big knowledge and he's a bit clever and he says wise things, I like listening to him. But now you see the authority that he carries in the astral realm. The next thing that happens, if you make good progress in the astral realm, because you're not interested in sightseeing. So let's say you are totally obsessed by the beauty of the master and you're not interested. Because master will say to you, what do you want to do now? Do you want to go looking around for a while, or do you want to move on? Now, a lot of people say, no, we want to go sightseeing. This looks like an interesting place. Master says, okay, go around for it. I'll wait for you here. Let's say we bypass the sightseeing part. That doesn't interest me. It never did. So I'm going to admit that, but I'm going to say that there is a bit of sightseeing that can go on. You say, no, I want to make progress. So the master then takes you to the capital of the astral world, which is called Sahansdal Kanwal. Now this is the point which connects to the crooked tunnel, the Bank Canal, which is mentioned in various literature, that connects the astral world to the causal world, but it's guarded. So if you went there on your own, you would never be able to get through that crooked tunnel. You'd never be able to go through it because it's the thickness of a hair. So you need to be perfectly still and you need to be perfectly accompanied. Also, the crooked tunnel is such that it looks crooked. So when you go through there, you get stuck. You'll think, oh, which way do I go? Now it's going up, it's going down. It's not straight. So you'll just stay there. You'll see lots of souls stuck there in the crooked part. Because they like to see the astral realm on one side and want to see the causal realm on the other. They say, this is a great viewing point. So they encourage you to sit and wait. They say, wow, this is great. You can see all the comings and goings from this position. Yeah. So when the radiant form of the master is involved, because yogis can attain this. Actually, yogis can go up to Brahman. But that's another subject. We won't go talk about yogis here. So the first thing that happens is when the master takes you to the Sahansdal Kanwal tower, it's like a light tower upon which Lord Indra sits. Now, Lord Indra is the guardian of that region and of the exit from the astral realm to the causal realm. And the first thing that happens is Master sends you first. He says, go and greet Indra. So you greet Lord Indra. Indra greets you and then says this fateful question. He says, by what authority do you come here? Because all the astral beings can't access that. You have somehow managed to find the capital. You have somehow managed to find the secret route out of the astral realm, which the beings living in the astral realm have lived for millions of years, never been able to find. They don't even know it exists. So that's why he says, by what authority? And that's when again you present the Master. He said, by this authority, my Master has taken me here. And when the Master appears before Lord Indra recognizes him, bows to the Master, bows to you, because now you have even surpassed Lord Indra himself. This is a deity who is worshipped around many parts of India. It's recognized as a deity, people pray to everything, but you are surpassing this great deity, the first deity you surpassed. Imagine the immense power that this deity wields, that he creates all the illusion and the maya that we experience here, and now you're going to transcend him. So in recognition, Lord Indra bows to you. That this bowing is a reverence bowing. It's a bowing that you understand that Lord Indra is submitting himself before you because of the greatness and authority that you have through this Master. So that's the next time you understand who this Master really is. Because of him, you are able to enter through the Sahansdar Kanwal and begin your journey through the crooked tunnel, the Banknal. Not only that, when you're traveling with your Master through Banknal, the Master says, no. He said, okay, you can look both sides, it's a fascinating view, but don't stop here. And he said, but all these souls have been here for millions of years, they're still happy. He said, yes, they're just trapped, they don't know any different. He says, but I can take you to something far better than this. So the Master encourages you to complete the journey into the causal realm. Now, when you enter the causal realm, I have to say that when you're going through this crooked tunnel, there's a reason why it's crooked. The first part of the tunnel has form. So therefore you are in the form that you recognize as you are now. When you cross the crooked part, you go over this peak and you descend on the other side, you lose the form. You become formless. So that form fades away. You and the Master both end up as just light, energy. That is amorphous, means you can form into anything. So now you're in a position to enter the causal realm. The causal realm has no form. So the deities, everything there are all balls of light, you could say, but they can be anything. We're saying, let's say in their neutral form they'd be balls of light, but actually they can be anything. They can be from the color purple to a chair, to a tree, anything. They become anything they think they become. So when you enter the causal realm, you gain a new power. Now you've left behind the senses. So now you don't have this sight, this seeing, this touching. The five senses will leave you there as well. Because once you have no body to manifest the senses, what happens to the senses? You only have two senses left. Nirat and Surat, the seeing and hearing. Now with these two senses, they're much more powerful than they are here in the physical. They are a creative power. So now the Master again comes into play, because you suddenly discover that the moment you think of the number 3, you become number 3 in everything. You can manipulate number 3 to change its properties, affecting the whole creation below you. It's a great thing. You feel that you've become a god, because absolutely everything you think or feel becomes reality. You can even create an entire astral realm with 100 Lord Indras. That is the power that you gain when you enter the causal realm. So again, you need the Master to keep you in line, because it's very easy to get straight off and to start experimenting with your newfound powers. But the Master says no. Don't indulge in these things, because then you have to pay the consequence. You'll have to come back again for many lifetimes to pay the consequence. No. So Masters don't let you indulge in this. They say you can watch, you can see everything that's going on here, but don't take part. It's a very strict rules. So many things go on there. There's many books written about the causal realm. But as the causal realm, it is the cause of all things that are manifested in form. So everything that can be manifested will start from there. But the bottom part of the causal realm are where the forms are manifested. But their origin, the conception of them, still has to come about. Now, as you travel to the upper part of the causal realm, you'll get to a place called Trikuti, the three peaks. This is where the origin of the mind, called universal mind, and the origin of cause occurs. So even cause has to have an origin. The concept of, for example, the number 3 has to originate from there. So now we're in a much higher level of causality than in the lower part. Now, when you reach that point, and you now are the cause of everything, and you can merge with the universal cause, universal mind, or Brahmandi mind, Brahma himself, you are the creator. You could create countless universes. You could create many things. You are essentially a god, equivalent to that of Brahma himself. However, this is again where the master intervenes and says, no, don't get trapped here. Brahma himself is trapped for 311 trillion years in this role. He cannot escape this. He cannot enjoy bliss. He's in constant duty, like a sentry, marching up and down forever in sentry guard duty. Yeah, he said he's in constant duty mode. He's not free. Don't think that for 1 minute that this one is having a delightful experience. He's in obedience mode. He's obeying his Lord and Master, Kal, who has put him in that position to churn the ocean of creation. He cannot leave and enjoy the bliss for himself. He's on duty for 311 trillion years, despite his power. Don't think that this is an easy ride. Which is why at another time that Brahma himself tried to get out and escape and try to figure out his father. It's a long story about the 3 sons, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, the ones that are responsible for their creation, the sustaining and the destruction of the 3 worlds, the illusory worlds. That's a story for another time. It's a very long story. But when you stand before the 3 peaks and you see the source of everything you have ever known, even the source of your own mind and your characters from there, you are stunned. You are absolutely stunned, and you could sit there watching this coming and going, the churning of the oceans and the coming and going of souls backs and forwards and all of creation stuff forever. But of course the master is there. He doesn't let you do that. He lets you watch for a while. He says, entertain yourself. He says, this is the magic of creation, of deception. All deception comes from here. All illusion comes from here. That's the wonder of it. So you look for a little while, but then master says, right, time to move on. Now, because you're actually in that state of awareness, higher awareness, you also understand the nature of that realm. And you realize that beyond this, there's only a dark void called the sun. Now, the deities there, when you express a desire to cross this, they say, this is not possible. We have traversed this dark void and have found no way out. So how are you claiming that you're going to leave? You see, but this is where the master comes to play again. And this is where, for almost the final time, you realize the power of your master. Because despite these deities that you've heard so much about, and you have to understand that when you're there in their presence, you recognize who you are and what they are. There is no mistake about the power, immense power that you are witnessing, but still they are trapped. And that's something you eventually come to realize, that they are trapped and they're longing to be free themselves, but they can't. They have sworn a duty to their father Kal that he will give them darshan of his face when they have completed their task of churning the oceans of creation, keeping it going. At the end of time, he will reward them with darshan. But to keep them going, that he exists, he gives them his feet. And that's why they worship the feet. That's why in most religions they touch the feet. The habit is touching the feet, which is the lowest part of the body. There's nothing to do with the awareness. Awareness is here at the eye center. You see, Sant is opposite. They say, don't touch the feet. Look at the eyes and the forehead of the master. Focus there. That is the freedom, not this business. So this habit of touching the feet comes because the deities who wrote the Vedas and the Puranas and the Shastras and so on, in those scriptures it says that, you know, that in respect you touch the feet, because that's all they knew. They've never had darshan of the face. So their fathers promised them darshan of the face. So for that reason they do their duty faithfully. In fact, despite the fact that they're trapped, they're the most devoted examples of disciples anywhere in creation, in the three worlds. You have to admire their absolute devotion. Because despite the fact that them churning the oceans is causing suffering to the souls and suffering in the world, they turn a blind eye completely, because they say, no matter what we feel, no matter what our emotion is, may be, what our feeling about it is, we are absolutely devoted to our Lord. He says what we're doing is right, and it's implicit. We are implicit in this. No matter what he tells us to do, we will obey him. No questions asked. So they do not question. Somebody once asked me, why don't they question what's going on? Because they can see the suffering of souls. Yes, they see the suffering of souls. They see the suffering of the Jeeves in creation. Yes, of course, they're all knowing. They see all these things. But they don't interfere, because their father's wisdom is greater than theirs. And they absolutely believe this and have surrendered themselves to their father. So, from the point of view of looking at them compared to us, they're the most devoted. Now, with the master has a little secret. He has an ability to know how to cross the sun, the void, the dark void. So when you're ready to leave the majesty of the three peaks and all this going on, the master says, come with me. And at this point, you have to merge a little bit with master. He says, I can take you across the sun, but you have to become part of me. So now the two become one, and he takes you across the void. And it's an incredible journey, because you think it's absolutely impossible. But somehow he takes you across. There's a route across, because his energy it vibrates at a certain frequency that the deities do not have, and they can cross it. So no matter how much they search around, they can never find. Many yogis have tried, even the Buddha tried. So many people tried going round the merry-go-round. They could never break out of the sun. So they concluded that this region of nothingness is the end game. So that's why in Buddhism they believe that nothingness is the origin. He's reached this point, he could not cross any further, and he concluded that this is it. But it's still within the realm of mind, still mindfulness. So all these religions practice mindfulness as their art. They're not really, although they use the soul concept, they don't understand the difference between soul and mind. So then when you cross these regions, you enter the lower part of Par-Brahm. Par-Brahm means beyond Brahm. They've simply named it very simply Par-Brahm. But it's a region of liberation of the soul. This is the first time that the mind has been thrown off. The Jeev now is left in Trikuti, and now this void has a little bit of a cleansing process, you could say, because you leave the Jeev behind, and now you're just pure soul. So when you come to the other side, you're a pure soul. And this soul has the brilliance, the equivalent of 16 earth suns, they say. It's not exactly like that, but this is an explanation to determine the difference between the majesty of the soul and the mind and soul complex. When the mind was wrapping like cloth around a bulb, hiding the light. When the bulb, of all the wrappings taken away from the black wrappings, it shines in its full brilliance. And that's what actually happens with the soul. The wrappings of the mind have been removed, and now the soul can shine in its full glory. So this awareness of the soul, something that you are the soul, it's stunning, it's liberating, it's magic. So we call this the liberation of the soul. It's a wonderful experience. You are in total stunning, because you're infinite, indestructible. In every way you look, you can see yourself in all directions. Every possibility exists at that point. However, because you're just entered a Par-Brahm, you're still not perfect. You're a soul, but you're a stained, tainted soul. That tainting occurs at the lower part of Brahm in order for you to enter the causal realm and the realm of the three worlds, three worlds of illusion, the karmic realms. Because you don't have any karma. So how can a soul from Brahman, from Par-Brahman, enter into Brahman and start a karmic journey? You have to take on a character. Now, so this is where Ishwarji used to talk about this DVD library of DVDs. Yeah, it's not exactly like that. It's just an explanation, because actually there's no time and space there. There's no place. So the mind cannot simply imagine anything. No, none of your imagination will work there. None of your ability to comprehend will work there, because the mind can only think in time and space. If you say there's no time and space, then what is there? What is the state of existence there? The mind cannot comprehend. So let's just say it exists. There's an existence there without time and space. At the very bottom, though, is where the process occurs of sustaining the soul with imperfection, because the soul is perfect, but it has to become imperfect to enter the imperfect realm. So now, with the staining of this imperfection, depending upon its chosen journey within from Satgurus, it now takes on a particular mind. So that with that staining imperfection, when it crosses the void into Brahman, a certain mindset or character is associated with it for the next 3 million years. So that's how the soul can acquire a mind. So now when you're going back the opposite way, you've got rid of the mind, but you still have the imperfect staining. So this is where in the holy books it's mentioned we have the Mansarava lake. You've heard about the Mansarava lake. And in fact, in Sikhism particularly, they emphasize this point. They've even built a physical version of it outside the Golden Temple, the Mansarava lake, which Sikhs believe that if they bathe in, they will be cleansed. But this is just a copy of what happens in Par-Brahm. And the reason why Guru Arjan Dev commissioned this to be built was to demonstrate the difference between the mind and the soul. And the idea is that you go in as a crow and come out as a swan. In other words, you're black in. This is not literally what happens. These are just metaphorical explanations. But yes, you have to then, the master takes you and say, come, swim, cross this lake. What happens when you cross this purification lake is that all the staining upon the soul is removed. So now when you get to the other side, you're a pristine, perfect soul with no staining at all. And once you've got there, no power on this earth can bring you back here. Nothing. No power. You have made it. Yeah? But it's still a little bit of a journey to go. Because you're now an individuated, perfect soul with infinite power and ability. But you're still isolated. You have not gone to your source. Where have you come from? So the master then again convinces you that this is not the end. Because you think, well, I'm all powerful. I'm the all powerful. There's only me that exists. I'm everything. But then the master says, no. If you place your awareness enough, you will see that others like you here. They are all in the same state of ecstasy. But they're separated from you. They're individuated. And you can sense them. But they look just like you. They're as powerful as you. So you realize then, oh, I'm an individual. I'm not all powerful yet. So the master says, well, if you want to know where you came from and where all these other souls come from, you must cross this region called the Mahasun. Now the Mahasun is another void that's even more difficult to cross and to get past than the Sun that separates Trikuti from Par-Brahm, level from the mind, from the soul. Now we're going to go from individuated soul to totality of soul, totality of consciousness. So we have this dark void. They call it a Mahasun, which simply means great void, as opposed to just void. There's no way you can cross this on your own, despite the fact that you have the brilliance of 16 earth suns, and you can light your way magically, a brilliant light. You cannot penetrate the darkness. The only way to cross that region is to totally merge with the master. So this is the final act that the master does for you in you becoming one with your beloved. And this can only occur when only the beloved matters. You no longer see yourself as an individual. You have reached that point where the beloved is everything for you. And at that point, you merge with the beloved. And then you can cross the Mahasun quite easily. And then you enter into the fourth region, the region of totality of consciousness, where you see that your individuated soul is among countless others, and that all of them are another part of you. They're simply other versions of you that you separated from yourself to experience creation from every possible angle and point of view. So you realize now that all souls are you manifested in different forms from different points of view. So we call this the totality of consciousness. So the majesty of that realm surpasses anything you can. There's no even description, because it is a state of awareness. It is a super state of awareness of becoming now finally the totality of everything. But that's still not the end. This region, the upper end of this region, has been called Baman Gufa, meaning whirling cave. The reason for that is that beyond that state, is Satgurus. Now the master convinces you that there is a region even beyond this. Despite the fact that you have totality of consciousness and awareness, you're not yet all-knowing. You haven't got absolute knowledge and you haven't got absolute rest. Because the creation, when it folds in Mahapralaya, will fold up to the fourth region. So it's not permanent. There's a permanent place of forever bliss and love and all the beauty and everything you want, the absolute ultimate. So in order to cross that region, you have to get past these whirling caves. Now, these whirling caves spin only in one direction, out, meaning back down. So every time you go into that cave, it spins you back out. So how can you get past? How do you cross it? This is where, again, because now you've merged with the master power knows the secret. It engages you in this activity where there's a special, you could say, mantra involved in this. You recite something. And this causes the cave to rotate the opposite way. So now when you enter it, you and the master can be pulled through. And then immediately reverses back for all the other souls there. In fact, the largest number of souls who are trapped in creation are there. They're constantly, every now and again, testing, because they don't know in what condition you need to get through the cave. So every now and again, a bunch of them go in and they get spun back out. But you escape. And then when you enter such kind, wow, well, it's the most brilliant place. It is the motionless plane. It is absolute stillness, because there's nothing to be done. And this is a state of existence that an ordinary individual cannot understand. How can that be blissful? If you think about it, all creation is based upon agitation, having to do something, having to attain something, having to seek something. Imagine you get to the point where you don't have to do anything whatsoever, just be in perfect stillness. And the more perfect that stillness, the more peaceful you feel. So Satgurus itself has several levels. So once you enter Satgurus, then you go to ISTAuk, and then Agam, and then Anami regions, Lok. Lok is the Nibbas, so Sat-Lok is the entry. Then you go to ISTAuk Lok, and then Agam Lok, and Anami Lok is where there's no soul at all. You've merged completely, become one with the Lord, and you've been annihilated. You no longer exist. The drop has become the ocean. You're the ocean itself. That's the ultimate goal in Satgurus. But even getting to Sat-Lok is an immense rest. You rest immensely. You find this stillness, this lack of needing to do something, this lack of having to achieve anything or attain anything, a wonder. Yes?
Hi. Why can't the other souls get through that waiting cave?
Because they don't have the secret. They don't have the master. The master knows the way. The master, the only one who has crossed from Satgurus into there carries the secret mantra.
Well,
they do not know.
Get that far without the master?
Oh, they can, because there are different masters. There are masters of the fourth region, for example, what we call the Satgurus. So they sit there with their own Satguru. So one who's attained the fourth realm, but not perfect, not a perfect living master, not a Sant Satguru. So those sit there with their disciples, wondering how to cross the region.
So
but for them, they're happy. Believe me, they're very happy.
Satgurus can get them through the other voids.
Only Satgurus, Sant. Yes,
Oh,
Satgurus.
Okay.
Yeah, Satguru is one who's attained the third realm or to fourth realm. Yes, there, like I said, there's many levels of masters. A perfect Sant Satguru is a unique individual because they come from such kind. They can take you all the way. But in the meantime, you can come across many other masters that take you a certain way. Then when your time is up there, you have to come back.
Okay.
Yeah.
They did ask also, how long does it take for a disciple to reach?
Up to 4 lifetimes, let's say.
Okay.
It depends on their yearning.
Mm-hmm.
If they have an absolute yearning where it becomes a need to know, when it becomes a need, then that person, like you need food, you need air to breathe. When it becomes like that, you do it in this lifetime.
Okay, thank you. That was a journey, that was.
Yes, hopefully I've explained. There's a lot more to say about each one, but I hope I've summarised it.
Yeah, thank you for that. Right, moving on to questions relating to masters. Is the master listening to and watching us all the time inside if the disciple is initiated?
Yes, of course. Once the master places his form within, the Holy Spirit, the Holy Ghost, he's constantly, not only is he watching, he's guiding you, but you don't know that. And he lets you take the credit. So when you have a decision to make, you're in a dilemma, and it's not in your spiritual interest to make a wrong decision, the master gives some obstacle, something that creates a change of opinion in your mind, and you say, oh, I'm going to go this way. But you take the credit. Oh, look, I've made the right decision. I've done this. Master doesn't intervene. He knows that gives you a bit of credit, fun, but yeah, the master guides you as well as he's been there supporting you in every way.
Thank you.
Yes, do you have a question?
I have many questions, but I'll be specific. With
Yes, please.
One question. I'm going to go back to the previous question,
Yes.
where you ended the answer.
Yes.
I've become extremely agitated.
Yeah.
For a prolonged period of time, times, many a time, wanting to know. You said the desire to know,
Yes.
the desire to seek, and having suffered the pain of that frustration, I came to the conclusion that this was Maya. This was me wanting to know. Who am I to want to know? I mean, I'm one of those guys who have multiple degrees and always wanting to know this, wanting to know that. I should do mathematics now. Okay, so first, the biology was interesting, then the physics, and I've got to go down to mathematics. I've got to go down to the quantum level, and again, I've done tiny courses. I want to know about what consciousness is. So as you know, there's a science version of consciousness.
Yes.
So there are scientists looking at consciousness.
They're looking at it from the material point of view. That's all they can know.
So not what we are looking at.
No.
And that was just going back to what I've been all my life. That is me suffering Maya. So who am I to have this question?
Let me answer that. You see, it's not as simple as you think. The mind at first has to be won over. The reason we have discourses, the reason we have information books and so on, is to educate the mind about spiritual truths, high spiritual truths. But this is an experiential path. Now, the longer you spend in inquiring without actually experiencing, the more frustrated you become. So some people have the approaches, I'm not going to read anything, because it's just confusing. It's intellectual gymnastics, which is what it is. One system says this, another says that. And because you're born of intellect, you're one of those who is a scientific inquiring mind. So you read everything, you study everything to try and know. But as you've rightly pointed out, you're still in a frustrated and agitated state, because simply learning about concepts doesn't give you an experience of that. It's like if you read a book about love, how you fall in love with a beautiful girl, how it all works. But you've never actually been in love. You can never really satisfy that feeling that you want to experience love. So the frustrations you have is because you want to experience this. Now, in the meantime, the mind is designed to question everything, to intellectualize everything. Now, the mind's nature is to analyze. Now, when you analyze something, we say, oh, the intellect is either sharp or it is blunt. But the nature of a knife is to cut and dissect. So when you say that you want to analyze the meaning of everything and make sense of everything by dissecting it, I say that this will give you knowledge of individual parts that you have dissected, but it cannot give you the knowledge of the whole and the purpose. For example, let's say you want to get to know somebody, your friend, you just met a new friend. You say, I want to know everything about them because I'm an intellectual. I want to thoroughly understand who this person is. So you decide to dissect them. You look at the heart, the lung, the liver, and you try to understand who they are from that. Will you ever know them? No. But let's say you spend time with them as a whole. You talk about their feelings, what they like, what they dislike, commonality. Then you get to know the person as a whole through experience, not through intellect. Spirituality is the same. For some people who have a very high intellectual mind, they like to dissect everything, including spirituality, and they end up getting nowhere. But if they decide, forget all of that, this is an experiential path. I have to actually see this for myself in operation. Then I will understand it. Until then, I'm going to play intellectual games where one part of the mind is battling with the other part, having this intellectual debate, even within yourself. You don't need anybody else. You can have a debate. No, this is Maya. Yeah, of course, mind is Maya. Everything to do with the mind is Maya. But one said, no, this part may be Maya, this is not. You have a debate about Maya. It's all illusion. One illusory character is talking to the other illusory character about illusion. There's no way out.
So the way we interpret that in Sikhi is that you go to Sangat.
Yes.
So we sit together in meditation, in reflection and contemplation.
And what is that doing? It's giving you an experience.
And it gives us an experience. So that too has been a very important part of my life.
Yes.
And when I desperately sought you out, that's what I was looking for. I was looking for friendship. I decided, as you know, I still have many questions in my mind.
Okay.
But I thought, well, finally, at the very least, if granted, and they may not be granted, because there are others like me as well, at least I'll have that friendship.
Yes, of course.
And I could go and beg for
We are
friendship.
old-time friends. I don't know yet.
I could go there and beg friendship and come here and sit in contemplation, because it is, we are here because of that totality of the unindividuated entity. And two things emerge from that. There is an idea, you just told us about Sant. There is another idea which says, given that we are part of God, that our soul is part of God, it is pining for the Father.
Eventually so, yes.
But what prevents it from making that journey is the veil of Maya.
That's right.
So it's
the
the
mind,
veil,
which
again,
is generated by the mind, the character
by
you've
the
associated with.
Yeah, by the mind. And we then talk about manmat and gurmat, as you know. And there is an idea that if you work on the Maya by doing Simran, then God will run to you. God will come to you, because there is that pining connection. God wants you back.
And how does the God come to you?
Because He is the Almighty.
How does He come? In what form does He come?
Because He is the Almighty. He comes to you in the same
Not
form
why
as
He
your soul.
comes. Yes.
As your soul.
The Lord has to manifest in the same form as you, so you can communicate and relate to that being. No one can communicate. For example, if the Lord came to you as a tree, would you be able to wholeheartedly relate to the tree, or a buffalo, or an insect? So it has to come in the human form. So Shabad is Guru, Guru is Shabad. He comes in human form. Now in Sikhi, there is, and this is the most well understood, it's explained throughout the Guru Bani, and the largest entry actually in the Guru Granth Sahib is Kabir's Bani, 34%. Yet most Sikhs don't even know about this. They only relate to Guru Nanak and Guru Gobind Singh because these have been famed by tradition. Now, unfortunately, Sikhism today has become a tradition. Sikhism originated as Sant Mat, which is why the Bhagats, there's no difference between Sant Mat and Sikhism, in fact.
It explains why 34% of the Shabads that I sing,
Yeah.
I have an interest in Indian classical music. I
Yeah.
was really enjoying the recording that was being played when I
Yes.
came in. I wanted to listen to more and more of that.
Yes.
These were excellent.
Shabad,
Yeah, but recitations as well.
recitations, yeah.
So the Shabads were recognisable. They were the
Yeah.
Shabads
Yes.
I've heard so many times before, but they were very good presentations.
Yes.
And where was I going to go with that? Yes, so those who do engage in Simran or
Yeah.
do engage in Kirtan, as you know, perhaps we're the only religion that says Kaljug mein Kirtan Pardhan, and I know Kaljug is gone now,
Yes.
but somehow in the Sikh tradition, Kirtan was given a very high position, and yes, if you do engage in those three things that I've been talking about, Sangat, Simran and Seva, that is your salvation,
You see,
right?
these things were given at the time. You have to explain why these things are necessary or why they were given. It is the Lord who does everything. You do not do anything. But as long as you're engaged in Home, I, then you'll say, I have to do this, I have to do that. And if you believe this so, the Guru will say, okay, go to satsang, do seva, work it out of your system to humble you. When you realize that you're not getting anywhere with these things, that you are not doing anything and everything is grace, only grace, then you give up on these things and you say, okay, I will now go to them for support, but my understanding is that I can do nothing because nothing changes in my life. But when I associate with this one, this Gurumukh, this Guruji, or the Master, the Holy Master, perfect living Master, such a one can transform me like no other thing can. Now this, he introduces you to the inner journey, and he says, do this meditation practice and do it with love and devotion, because love and devotion is the key to taking you home. Love of what? Devoted to what? The truth. Jesus said, seek the truth and the truth shall set you free. He didn't say seek me, seek a body, seek anything else, seek a heaven. He said seek the truth.
He did. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry about that. He also said that the only way to God is through me. What you're saying to me now is that whilst I have always thought that what he meant was through his way, through his teachings,
Yeah.
but what you're saying is that
But
it
can I
was through
clarify
his
that
body.
point? There's a part missing from that.
It was through his body,
Not
the
through
human
his body.
form.
He's referring, he said, I am the light of the way. Right? Only those go to the Father through me. But he said, I am the light of the way as long as I am in the world. Not forever. He never said that I am the light of the world for future generations. He was talking to his disciples. He was their master. They were his disciples. Now you have to understand, why do gurus or any man need disciples? If they are for everybody, which they're not, if they're for everybody, then why do you collect disciples? Because that's segregating those ones who have from those ones who do not. And if you look historically, all the Bhagats in the Guru Granth Sahib and the Gurus, they all had disciples. And Jesus did, and Buddha did, and so on. Why? Because these were the ones who are marked for that individual to be taken home. This is the system for which you can attain the mukti that you seek. Not by recitations, not by reading. Most of the cultural practices we have today, if Guru Nanak was to come here and look at Sikhism, he wouldn't recognize it. He said, what is this? He said, oh, this is in celebration of you. He said, I only know Sikhism through scripture. All of these add-ons, these extra things, have nothing to do with what's written in the Guru Granth Sahib. So all these things have been added, on the ceremonies, the rituals and so on, are not actually part of the Sikh scripture, the Sikh canon of scripture. If you follow the actual holy book itself, read the content, not recite it, read it and follow it, which is what Guru Nanak said, why go on reciting forever? What's the point? He didn't believe in all of that. Yet what do we have in Sikhism? We have Reras, we have Sukhmani Path, Japji Sahib, and people recite it. And they think that they're somehow going to get somewhere. This is a Hindu trait. They've adopted a lot of Hinduism in Sikhism now because people, in the absence of the truth, want to do something that they feel is going to help them. But they still have the same calm, krodh, everything. There's no difference. What have they attained?
Not surprising given that 90% are unmarked. So
Yes, that's right. Because also it mentioned, both in Christianity and in Judaism, that they come for the marked ones. Not everybody. Jesus said, I have come for the marked sheep, not for everybody. When they complained, his disciples said, why do you bother preaching to these thousands on the mount, his sermon on the mount? He said, you only collect a few souls. He said, my teaching was for them. They recognize my teaching and they come running. He said, the others were just curiosity seekers. They're just interested in what I have to say, but their mind is somewhere else, on their dinner, on their wives, on their children, on their work. He said, they just come for an entertainment. He said, but those ones are serious. They're marked. He talks about the marked sheep, the marked ones. In Sikhism, it's the same. They recognize the marking. So not for everybody, the teaching.
Okay, not for everybody, just for 10%.
Yes,
Those chosen.
that's right.
And they are the ones that will be taken
That's
across,
right. And they'll come across a perfect living master
across the
who will
Mahasan.
take them across.
across the Mahasan to,
Yes.
to such kind.
Yes,
But in a sense, even the 90% are marked. We are all marked here.
eventually.
This
You
is his
see,
will as
what
well.
the Guru Nanak was referring to, the marking was in this life. He said in any particular moment of life, only 10% of souls are marked to go home, and only 3% of those marked ones will go home in this lifetime. So he was quite clear about that. So, but eventually, everyone will go home in time. That is the truth. There's no failures. No one's going to be left behind. It's just a question of time. So if somebody's not ready yet, the Gurus never said, oh, you are going to be in great difficulty if you don't follow me now. They are the embodiment of love and compassion. So they initiate those ones who are ready now. They're marked for them. The future generations, the Guru will come for them. That's why they say, when the Chela is ready, the Guru appears. In any society, anywhere, that is how it works.
Thank you for taking too much time. Thank you.
Yes, please. Let's carry on.
Yeah, still continuing with questions relating to masters. How can we ask the master to accelerate our karmas so that this can be our last birth in this world?
Be careful what you ask. If you ask the master to accelerate your karmas, then this is a very difficult thing to do. I'd rather you say to master, please help me in this journey to go back with you to Satgurus, be with you as quickly as possible, but I will trust in your judgment about your wisdom about how you should proceed. I'm not going to ask for anything except to be forever in your remembrance. That's all.
Thank you. Ishwar Puriji used to say that your work is just to reach the railroad station, inside where the master is waiting for you from the time of initiation. So where is the railroad station inside?
He's referring to the station means a stationary point after a journey is complete. The first part of the journey is to withdraw the consciousness to the eye center. Once you place yourself firmly in the eye center, you're at rest. That's the railroad station. So he's saying that your job, if you do anything at all, is to get yourself up to the eye center, place yourself there, and wait for Master to open the door.
Thank you. I think you've answered this question. Do masters come in many forms?
Yes, there are many different levels. Depending on the level of seeking of the seekers, they may come as just astral beings, they may come causal beings, Parbrahm, and so on. Yes, masters come in many forms.
Can an ordinary person become a holy master who did not previously follow a spiritual life?
Absolutely so. You see, masters never claim that they are anything different from the rest of us. The difference is that their awareness is that much greater than ours, and that has been gifted to them. No master will say, I have attained this, I require you to worship me. No master wants to be worshipped in the physical sense. They say, what has been given to me freely, because I have had longing, vira, longing, yearning, it has become need. Then the Lord, Supreme Lord, Satgurus, has granted me this knowledge, this awakening. And now I have been instructed to awaken others by that same power. Masters never claim that they are anything special, other than the fact that they have been given this role, just like you have a surgeon performing surgery, you have a road sweeper sweeping the road. These are just roles that have been given. Masters know that every soul is equal. All souls come from Satgurus. So if anyone who claims to be a master says that they are better than you and you should look up to them, they're not a perfect living master. But if they say, let me be your friend, and as a friend, I can tell you many things that I have been given. What has been given to me, I give to you freely, which is why masters never charge for spiritual services, because it's given to them free. How can they charge? So they tell others what they know in compassion for them. And they don't seek disciples. They say to the Lord, whoever is marked for me, you bring it. Because they're in ecstasy. They have attained the bliss. What do they care of this hassle of collecting disciples? No master wants to be a master. If they start trying to push themselves forward in that way, they're not a perfect living master. No one wants to do the job. Even Babaji, when he was given the Gadi for the RSSB, the largest Sant organization, for 3 years he gave no satsang and did not initiate. And he protested because he said, okay, if I'm to do this job, I want to tell the Sangat exactly where I came from, how I lived my life beforehand, how ordinary I was. And the committee said, no, you can't do that. He said, because this Sangha has a long tradition. They think that masters have been born like this. You know the stories, like there's so many stories of Kabir and Guru Nanak, that they were born in this cradle with a light over them, a cobra shading them. All these mythological stories have been told about what a master is supposed to be. You can't just be an ordinary watchmaker living in Spain with a haircut, riding motorbikes and wanting to become a pilot and not really having any inner experience. You can't tell them all that. So he said, okay, then I'm not going to initiate and I'm not going to give satsang until my master absolutely instructs him within. And he did that for 3 years. Then eventually his master Charan Singh Ji appeared to him and said, now your time has come. You have to do my work. And I will transmit everything I have to you, so all the knowledge that I have becomes yours. And at that point, he became enlightened. In fact, the remarkable truth is that when Babaji himself was written in the will, he didn't even know. He was at the time in Spain. He got a call from Dera that Master has died, Charan Singh Ji has died. Please, he says, come to Dera, but before you come, put your bug on and start growing your dari, start growing a beard.
Look the part.
No, look, he didn't know though. He said, okay. He said, oh, maybe out of respect. So he went there. And he was seated in a room in a certain building where they're going to read out the will. So he was sitting upstairs, waiting. And in the meantime, they read the will to the committee, to the witnesses of Charan Singh's will. He didn't know, still. Then he was called down. And when he was called down, everybody started bowing to him. And he suddenly realized, hold on a minute, am I the master? He didn't even know.
Wow.
And he was surprised. And they said, yes, you're mentioned in the will. That's it, you have to start doing this. And he was shocked at first. Then he sat and thought about it. He said, okay. He said, but if I'm going to head this, I'm going to tell the truth. That's when he presented the case to discreet. He said, no, you can't do that. He said, okay, I'm not going to act as master in any way, like initiating or even doing satsang, until I'm given a specific instruction from my master and given that direction. And that took 3 years. So he was meditating and practicing for 3 years in isolation. That's why there's this delay. And a lot of the initiates don't understand what the reason for this delay is, because they don't know the backstory behind. So Babaji is very humble in this. And even now he says, who am I? I could just be an actor. How do you know? Unless you go within and see for yourself who I am. Why you call me Guru? So a lot of other religions, let's say, some parts of Sikhism feel that, he's a pretender, fake master because he wants people to worship him. He does the exact opposite. They've not heard his satsangs. He just says, no. He says, no, I'm nothing. I'm just like you. I bleed like you. I eat like you. I shit like you. There's no difference between us. The difference is I have been given that awareness. He didn't say I got it, I attained it. He said I've been given this awareness from my master and now I'm sharing this with you. That's it. He said don't worship this physical. This physical is going to go to the ground like you. He's going to be cremated. There's no difference. There's nothing special about this physical form. In fact, he's got diabetes, backaches, and I had cancer recently. He said, what of this physical? He said, it's the same like you. It's a karmic body that's been borrowed for this purpose. He said, there's no difference with that. He said, so don't look at this physical. He said, get to know. If you want to know who I am, go within. See for yourself. Then believe me. Otherwise, listen to me. You can listen to me out of curiosity. He said, but it's not your experience. You're not sure. If you want to remove the doubt that what I say is true, go within and see for yourself. It's exactly the same things that the Gurus taught in Guru Granth Sahib, the Bhagats in the Guru Granth Sahib, greater number of Bhagats than there are Gurus' entries in Guru Granth Sahib. Because Guru Arjan Dev wanted to demonstrate that this path of Sant Mat is a universal path. But unfortunately it's been made into a religion. So Babaji spends his whole time now quoting from the Guru Granth Sahib to correct the misunderstandings that people have, including the idea, So they've come up with various methods of practices. The Simran that they speak about is not Vaheguru. Vaheguru was just a method of escalation that Guru Nanak used to try and give somebody initially who is not initiated something to say. But once you're initiated, the 5 holy Shabads are given, which is also mentioned there, but they don't tell you what they are because it's a secret. Because these are powers, and if misused, it can be terrible for that individual. So the Simran that we talk about, that's real Simran, is the 5 holy names that are given at the time of initiation, which can only be given by a perfect living master who empowers them. It's not a question that you hear these names and recite it. If you're not being given those by a perfect living, they have no power. Only the ones who have been given those names by a perfect living master through a process called initiation, where the masters place themselves within them, then those names are empowered. You see? So this is a totally different Simran. Similar with Kirtan. Kirtan is listening to stories and listening to Shabads and everything. And this is okay. This is an external observance. But it does not replace the Kirtan within. The real Kirtan is the Shabad. But listening to that Shabad within. Connect with that. So alternatives were given for the people who were starting their journey. But unfortunately, the Sikhs now just follow this. And they think that's attaining the same thing as actually connect with the Shabad within and doing the real Simran. It's not. That's why they don't attain what they expect to attain. The younger generation are getting put off by all of this because they see the elders claiming to be Sikhi, but they're not. They're looked apart. Looked Sardar Singh with a bug and Dari and imposing. But their mind is the same as everybody else. They're still full of troubles and difficulties and bad behaviour often. Even here there was a Gurdwaras tried killing each other. So an incident some time ago between one Gurdwara. Even the fact that they've got Ram Guriya Gurdwaras and you've got the Jat Gurdwaras and the Ravi Das Gurdwaras. What's that all about? Guru Nanak's whole message was there's no caste. But Sikhism has adopted Hinduism. They've made a mockery of it. They should be ashamed. But no, they think they're doing the right thing. They don't know. It's because the real seekers will question all of this and say, hold on. What I'm seeing in the practice is not really what I'm looking for. So therefore I want to find the truth of all this. You see? So a real Sikh is one who follows Sikhism through scripture. In other words, the holy book is their only guide. They do not need to go to the Gurdwaras. They don't need to listen to anyone else. Just read the book, and they find a teacher whose knowledge of the book, understand the interpretation, and explain to them anything they don't understand and give them the practice. That's a real Sikh.
Thank you. Got a few questions regarding the realms, the planes.
Yeah.
Is the time at which you will withdraw attention from the body and reach the astral plane, then the causal plane, etc., also predestined, or does it depend upon our level of concentration?
They go both hand in hand. Your level of concentration is predetermined. So if it's determined in this lifetime that you're going to go home, then all the attributes will come together to support this objective, and you'll attain this state. So yes, everything is predetermined. Guru Nanak himself said, not even a leaf moves without his order. Even the order is given for a leaf to move. Jesus said the number of hairs on the body are numbered. Even that. So what free will we have? This is illusion that we have free will. We have choice. Choice is not free will. Choice is limited. Free will is I walk into the room and I say I want mango juice. But he said to me, sorry, no mango juice, I've only got tea or coffee. Now I have to make a choice. Yeah? That's not free will. Choice is limiting me, and I make a choice based upon what? My sanskars. I'm not all-knowing, so I choose tea because I don't like coffee. Why don't I like coffee? Why do I choose tea? You see? These are all conditions that determine our behavior. So we have no free will whatsoever.
Thank you. You have touched on this. In the last satsang, you talked about the sub-astral plane and other entities there. Please can you explain this in more detail? Also, if one is initiated by a perfect living master, can any entity cause harm to you externally or within? And do we first meet the radiant form of the master at that level?
I think I've already explained about the meeting of the radiant form.
Yeah.
But regarding entities and so on, at sub-astral level, yes, when you cross, before you get to the astral realm, you have to cross this sub-astral level, which is a very dangerous area. Imagine like before you go to the blessed city, you have to cross the villains' camp, yeah, where all the villains are out to rob you and the thieves. You have to cross that region before you get to the beloved city. So in a sense, the sub-astral realm is where you get all the, like we call the hungry ghosts, the prets, the boots, and all these other disembodied souls. The yamduts are there. There's a lot of entities there to trap you, trick you, harm you, all kinds of things. So that's why masters say don't attempt to do this on your own without being an initiate of a perfect living master. So, for example, Babaji said don't meditate unless you are initiated by a perfect living master. Because if you have some connection with one of these negative entities, they will come for you at that point and scare you. And let's say later on you decide you are going to get initiated. You'll be too scared to meditate because you think this evil, grotesque thing is going to come and get me. So there are ways around it, and you know there are systems that you can use for protection. For example, if you are very much, even so you're not initiated, if you're very much devoted to an enlightened being and you picture them or you imagine them as your guide, then that protects you. So it is possible. But for most people who are just new to this path and they don't know anyone to focus on who is an enlightened being, then yes, they can come to all kinds of trouble. So that happens at the sub-astral level. Once you cross the sub-astral level, now as an initiate, the master greets you, obviously, when you cross the eye center to take you across the sub-astral level. So you don't have to worry about these things. The problem really is, for those ones who are not initiated by a perfect living master, attempting to do this on their own. Yes, it's very hazardous for them. Do entities harm you? No. Once you're initiated by a perfect living master, they will come near you and they will taunt you, but they can't harm you. Because you have the power of Satgurus upon you, the light of Satgurus upon your head once you've been initiated. And they keep away. But they will definitely taunt you and try to distract you and get your attention. But they're never close. They never get close enough to cause any harm. You know, and if the moment you do the Simran, the 5 powers that were given, the holy powers at the time, they disappear. They cannot stand in the face of Simran. So Simran itself is a protection. which is why it's so highly revered in Sant and in Sikhism, because it's an absolute protection. And if you keep on reciting it, even during the day, nothing can harm you, not even your boss. If you're attentive to your Simran really devotedly, and your boss is going to call you up for a disciplinary and everything, it'll be totally diffused. You'll think, wow, I got away with that lightly. Simran is a real power. And there's another, we could talk about that another time, about the power of Simran alone. But it has to be done rightly so.
Thank you. I think you've touched upon this, but I'll ask the question. Is it possible that you can get trapped in the astral plane when you withdraw your attention from the body with the process of dying while living, just like we are here?
If you don't have a perfect living master to guide you and to tell you, as I explained before, that this is not the end, yes, most certainly, because the wonders there are so amazing. There's 150 levels of the astral realm. So you imagine it's an infinite journey. You can spend the entire rest of creation just wandering about in the astral realm, as the beings do there. It's a wonderment, a feast for the senses, because there your senses are heightened, much more than here. So the sensory perceptions there originate from there and come into the human body in a dulled sense, in a dulled way. But there, they're much more heightened. So is imagination, so is emotion. So you can indulge freely in all these experiences.
So based on what you've just said then, this question relates to how can one prevent oneself from being lured or attached to inner pleasurable experiences in the planes below Satgurus?
They have to go in the company of a perfectly master. Once they have been initiated in the company, then they don't have nothing to fear with that. Otherwise, it is possible, like if they're a really practicing yogi who's so determined not to go sightseeing, they're very focused on their goal of Brahman, let's say, because that's where yogi aims for Brahman, then they can cross the astral realm without too much problem.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is rare individuals.
Right, the last question relating to the planes and the realms. Is it true that we have to reach the fifth realm only while living in the human body through meditation, and then we will be in that state after death? Or can we go to Satgurus directly after death, even if we don't have inner experiences inside?
Both are true.
Right.
In the sense that once you've attained Satgurus whilst living in a human body, nothing can bring you back here. No power can bring you back here. And yes, you carry on that state after death. Obviously, you go home. You've attained that. But let's say you have been you're a really devoted soul, totally in love and devoted to the path. It's become your sole objective in life, above everything else. But you've had no inner experiences because you have to live a family life. You may have duties to perform, so you can't afford to leave your duties and become irresponsible. Masters will never allow that to happen. So they hold on to this grace. So at the time of death, all this wealth that you've gained during life is given to you, so you can go to Satgurus. Yes, that can happen too.
Thank you. I've got a few questions related to astrology now.
Okay.
This is a bit of a long question, so bear with. My question is about Nadi astrology, which is palm leaf reading, which is popular in South India. It is said that details of one's past, present and future were foreseen by sage Agastya thousands of years ago and transcribed on palm leaves. And there are records of this in South India. How accurate is Nadi astrology? And they go on to say, one of my family members happened to get a reading done, and the details of their past and present were surprisingly very accurate. Are the details of the future as accurate in this form of astrology?
Yes, because it does exist. There's a cave. It's an actual cave which has been converted to a room now, where these palm scrolls exist, right, from the way back, in which certain individuals relating to those palm scrolls will come at a certain date and discover their story. So it's a demonstration at that time of how one can know the future, and that the future is already written, is predictable. Therefore, you have no free will. The origin of this was a demonstration. So a certain number of souls who are connected with that place, with those group of people around, would come back again into the human form, be born maybe in America somewhere, find out about this place, and go back there to have a reading done. And then, lo and behold, the entire story is written down. It is accurate, yes. It is a demonstration. It's not everybody. If you're not marked there, you won't get there. You won't be able to get there. Like if you think, oh, let me have a go then. By hook or by crook, you won't be able to get there. If your scroll is not there, it won't pull you there.
If it's meant for you.
It's meant for you only. So it's only for certain people who will go there, and of course it veils them. But it doesn't save you, it doesn't do anything. It's just information.
Yeah.
It's just showing you how clever they were back then.
Thank you. Can one predict the future correctly by astrology, or is this not an accurate science at present?
At present, it's not accurate. Back in the day, they were much more precise about the motions and so on, because everything is karma. So you could use any number of things to predict. You could even throw two shoes, left and right. So if the right shoe falls first, the answer is yes. If the left one falls, is no. It works just as well. So there are many systems of prediction.
Thank you. Are there any celestial bodies in the astral planes that set out our destiny for this physical plane?
No. The destiny is not set by anything physical. Our destiny comes from the causal realm, from Brahman. The destiny is written, the entire script is given to us, and now we're living through it. The reflections of the stars and the positions of the planets, it's just not, they don't determine us, we determine them. It's just a means for certain skilled individuals to say, oh, well, you were born under this influence, and therefore this is your story. It's not that they determined it. You determined them. When you were born, you left a print that you could use to determine your life. Let's have a bit of fun.
Okay, it relates to this next question. How do the physical stars, planets, moon, etc. mark out the destiny of a human being before he is born?
It's not that they mark it out in the sense that they create it. As I said before, a pattern occurs there. So you're born and you see a pattern. Now, that pattern means something to an astrologer. So then they interpret that pattern and say, okay, at the time of your birth, this was the pattern of the sky, and therefore this is your story. It's not that the pattern determined your story. You determined the pattern. And in some cases, by a skilled person, this pattern could be read to give you some clue, not 100%, of what is your life.
Okay. I've got a couple of questions related to speculative theories.
Okay.
Are energy weapons being used at this time by those in power? I have heard that the powers that be have been responsible for some of the world's fires, making them appear to be natural.
You know, the trouble is we have to separate conspiracy theories, which people love, from actuality. Yes, there are certain weapons being developed and so on. They're not yet in the process of being used. There's still a little while yet. There's even quantum weapons, mind control, frequencies using sound. There's many things that would worry the average human being, but rest assured they're not in a state yet where they can affect mass globally. And certainly know that the fires were not caused by them. You know, it's just because it's like saying if I walk out with my right foot and it rains, that means every time I walk out with the right foot is going to rain. It's not like that. The way people correlate things, they connect things together because two events happen at the same time. Therefore, they must be correlated, must be connected. They're not.
Okay.
That's how conspiracy theories go. And it's an interesting area, a wonder for some people. Love to go whizzing around in these conspiracies.
Some things are just coincidence.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, the last question relating to these speculative theories. Is the Galactic Federation of Alien Races involved in any activity on Earth? For example, are they trying to dismantle nuclear weapons, or are they dealing with security matters on the planet? I have heard that the Council of Nine group are doing this.
Okay. Yes, there are aliens. Yes, there are benefactors or those who worry about us because they're our seed. DNA did not originate here. Our human DNA did not originate on Earth. It was star-seeded by another race, a humanoid type race, and they are much older than us, much more advanced, and they do keep an eye on us. We are like pets to them, so they do keep an eye on us for our protection. Regarding the Galactic Federation, there is a Galactic Federation. We're not going to be part of that until 2070, so we've got a while yet to get up to the point where we can match them when we've mastered gravity and a couple of other things. Yes, we'll be part of them. Yes, we are being observed. Yes, we're being visited. Most of them are friendly or indifferent. But there are some bad. There are some who would like to use our DNA to establish a colony for themselves. So they're breeding with themselves and our DNA. So they set abductions and so on, in which they're trying to create human alien hybrids underground, which eventually they will hopefully rule over us and replace us for their race. But they will not be successful.
You mentioned, did you say the word abductions?
Yes.
So when people kind of disappear,
Yes.
it's probably for
Yes,
that
and they have the
purpose.
DNA removed from them and sent back, particularly females.
Right, okay.
Yeah. I don't want to alarm the public, but it does happen.
That's why I thought I'd ask.
And
just to be clear.
it does happen, but it's not going to. Don't worry. The ones who are protecting us, let's say, they're not going to let it, overtake us. In fact, there's aliens living here in the underground. The whole race of them, several thousands of them, not just one or two. And the governments know about them. In fact, America's working with them to try and get their technology, and they're trying to find a method of which they can communicate with each other. So there's ongoing trials. They're sharing technology, and the American government allowing them to live here and use our resources for their own benefit. So yeah, there are, let's say, these are real things, not conspiracy. These are real things. The realism, they say the fact is even worse than the fiction, and it is true. So why bother with the fiction stories? The facts themselves are quite interesting.
Right, I've got 4 last questions, and these are just random.
Yeah.
I have heard of a butcher who is a saint in South India, which appears to go against traditional religious teachings. Please, can you comment on this?
Yes, this is one of the things about who can become a master and what a master really is. You see, the myth surrounding the birth of masters are they're born by some miracle birth, like a virgin birth or some miracle. They descend down as a baby, they're perfectly formed features. A lot of miracles happen in the stars, the shooting stars are going, 3 wise men turn up, cobras fan them, lights are there, everybody recognizes them. No, none of this happens. No master's born like that. I've never met one like that. Not even the mythical ones. The mythical ones are not born like that. So they're born in very ordinary circumstances, as ordinary individuals. They're not enlightened at all at that point. Now, what happens is they've been marked. Because of their bhakti in the past, they've earned sufficient merit, spiritual merit, which means that in this lifetime they'll become great teachers. So yes, that's marked from birth, but there's no evidence of it from their birth. The birth is very ordinary. Now, because masters are beyond the limitations of human understanding, they are spiritual beings, purely. They're the Shabbat made flesh. Now, if you think that Shabbat has created everything in this world, it's created the good and the evil as you label them. From the Lord's point of view, there's no such thing as good and evil. There's just occurrences. We attribute something. If something is pleasant for us, we say it is good. If it's unpleasant, we say it's evil. But the Lord just sees the play going on very beautifully. For example, when a director and a script writer get together to write a movie, he has villains in there, he has heroes in there, he has all the people in between, and the director says the play has been played very beautifully. He doesn't say that villain should be killed because he's played a part of villain in a play. He understands it's only a play. There's no reality to anything that's going on. So in this sense, masters come here. Sometimes, occasionally, masters come here to disturb the human psyche. When the humans are so proud and so arrogant, say, we have lived such a noble life, we have never made a mistake, we've never done anything perfect, we should be rewarded. I remind them of the story of their Guru Nanak. During Guru Nanak's many travels, he travelled extensively in India. He was walking with his entourage to a particular destination where he was called to do satsang by these villagers. Now, these villagers had a Sant who'd been sitting on this rock for 50 years, meditating, never moved. People feed him, they looked after him, he never moved for 50 years, an incredible feat. So, he was greatly revered by the village there and the surrounding villagers. So they told Guru Nanak, who was coming that way, said, you must come and meet him. So Guru Nanak said, okay. So as he approached the village, this saint, obviously through his inner vision, recognized a great Mahatma, a great Guru was coming. So he opened his eyes to greet him. And as Guru approached, Guru Nanak greeted him most humbly, and this saint similarly so. And this saint recognized the authority of Guru Nanak, that Guru Nanak was far beyond what he had attained. Because of his inner vision, he understood that this Guru was greater than him, despite the fact that he'd been sitting there for 50 years. So he immediately asked Guru Nanak, he said, "Thank you for coming to visit me. I've waited 50 years. He says, please grant me a boon." So boon meaning like a blessing. Yeah. So Guru Nanak said, okay. He said, do you want mercy or do you want justice? And he thought about it. He thought to himself, well, I've never done anything wrong. I've sat here for 50 years in meditation. I don't need mercy. I need justice. And then Guru Nanak, obviously knowing his mind, said, be careful what you choose. So he thought again. He thought, no, I can't see any reason for mercy. I'm going to choose justice. So he said, please, Guruji, I seek justice. And Guru Nanak said, are you sure? He said, yes. He said, okay, here is justice. Your just deserts. Now in the next birth, you will be born as a rock, and the rock will be the Guru sitting on you for 50 years. Ooh. He says, Pranam.
Wow.
And he moved on. So this is an example of one who is full of arrogance, thinking they have attained something. Now, disciples are very much like that. Disciples of masters often feel that they are superior to non-disciples. They think, we are followers of Babaji and you are followers of Ishwarji, we're better than you. Or we are Sikh and you're Muslim and we're better than you. So they have this pride in them, the ego, right? So occasionally Satgurus throws a spanner in the works. So this is a particular case of this saint, this butcher saint of South India. His name was Kashuk, a real saint, Saint Kashuk from South India, well-known saint in that region. And there was a disciple, a Buddhist disciple, who was a Buddhist practitioner. And at that time, Buddhist practitioners were what we call samanas. Now, samanas are people who, they walk without seeking any food even. They walk around, just giving teaching to people and never asking for food, because they believe that they should rise above every desire, even the request for food. So this particular samana had been practicing for quite a while now. He'd been doing his yogic practice, had attained his riddhi siddhis within. So he attained, riddhi siddhis means like magical powers within. He'd entered the astral realm and attained the ability to do certain things. So he, after having his morning bath in the river, he sat under a tree and he was in meditation. And there was a bird chirping at the top of the tree. And then the bird did its business and fell right on his face. Now this yogi, he's like a Brahman yogi, was so upset that he looked at the bird and cursed the bird, and the bird immediately died and fell down. He had the power. He was angry. So he washed himself again and resumed his meditation, finished his duty, and then went to the near village to do his begging, with his begging bowl, and because for food, because but he as a wandering monk, you see, he couldn't directly request food. So he would just come and stand in front of the door. So the first door of the village happened to be this woman, this lady. And he didn't know who she was. Or he just stood there and he said, alms, meaning I'm here, right? And it's up to her to feed him or not. And a voice came from behind the door, just one moment, I'll be with you. And then he said, I am a samana. He said, your duty is to drop everything and to answer my call for help. He said, what else could there possibly have been important? She would again, the voice said, a bit louder, just 1 minute, I'll be with you in a few moments. So he started getting angry. Then he said, alms. And then she replied, I'll be with you in a moment. And he said, alms. So he kept on like this in a very angry voice. Eventually, she came out. And she greeted him in the greeting of the day with the folded hands. and said, I have some soup for you. But then he protested and said, I have been waiting here for 20 minutes. You did not come to feed me. He said, this is disrespectful. He said, you know the culture. She said, I'm very sorry to offend you, but I was feeding my blind husband. He's blind and cannot feed himself. It was his feeding. I was in the middle of feeding him when you came. He said, what of it that you have to wait a little longer? What difference does it make? You're not going anywhere, have nothing to do. He said, I am a sannyasi, I'm a renunciate. He said, you should attend to me immediately. He said, I have your soup. He said, and don't talk to me like that. I'm not some little bird that you can look up and it drops dead. And then he got shocked. He said, how did she know? That's what happened to him that morning. Then he fell down on his feet and said, I'm really sorry, I'm sorry. Please, how did you know such things? Can I become your disciple? She said, no. She said, I'm living a householder life. He said, I don't accept disciples. But if you want to know how I know, you can go to my guru. He's at the other end of the village, the back end. He said, go to him. This is his name. He said, ask as you get there and they'll direct you. So he said, thank you, please forgive me. So she gave him the soup most humbly, and he ate his soup and went on his way. Now, as he's going through this village, this was largely a Muslim population. This is at the time of the Mughal rule in India. So he felt uncomfortable going through the Muslim part of that because, you know, they eat meat. He was a Brahmin, he was a brahmachari, you know, so he was a renunciate. He didn't eat meat, he didn't indulge in sexual things or nothing. And he saw this kind of animal business going on, farming, and he felt very uncomfortable. And he was thinking to himself, should I really carry on? Is this really true? But he said, but she knew those things, that how could she possibly know? So that he was having this debate in his mind. So eventually he got to the very last house in the thing, and he noticed the sign of the butcher. He said, oh, this can't be it. So he asked the neighbor, he said, is this so-and-so, Kushak? He said, yes, this is the house of Kushak. He thought, but he's a butcher. So he stood outside for a while in dilemma, thinking about this. You know, should I go and ask him? Because this goes against everything I believe in. But eventually, Kushak saw somebody standing there. He came out with a bloodied apron, knife in his hand. He'd obviously been butchering meat. And he said, how can I help you, son? He said, are you Kushak? He said, yes, I am. He said, I'm very confused. He says, you know, I'm Brahmin, I'm this and that. He said, yes, I know who you are. She sent you. My disciple sent you. And that you have some trouble this morning with a bird that's bothering you. He said, how does he know all these things? I've only just introduced myself, never told him anything. And in those days, there's no email, no mobile phone that she could have communicated with him. Yeah, not like today. So he was impressed. So he thought to himself, but this man knows things, but he's a butcher. So he's in this dilemma. So this man said, wait a moment, I'll be finished. I'm just finishing the last order. And he said, then I'll come clean up and come with you. So he went back in, the saint.
Wow.
So he finished his job and he came up with his bloody apron, closed up his hut, went opposite where his house was. He said, please sit here outside. I'm just going to wash and I'll come to you in a few minutes. So he went inside, and meanwhile this man was sitting there thinking, this is not right, you know, it goes against everything I believe, and all this dilemma he was trying. But then he was curious. He said, but how could he know? The two things don't work. Eventually he came up in his full robes, you know, like a like a Maharaja type of thing, very simple renunciate robes. And he said, wow, what a transformation. Had he seen him in that form first, he wouldn't have questioned. He said, right. He said, what is it you want to know? He said, firstly, I want to know, how do you know these things? How do you know who I am? I was sent by your disciple who knew exactly what happened to me. He said, I'm a seeker. I'm seeking the truth. He said, I really want to know. And this then, he said, okay, I'll explain to you. He said, but I have a problem before you tell me this. He says, you're a butcher. How can you be a butcher here, serving the community, which goes against all Ahimsa, non-violence, all spiritual principles in all the 18 schools of philosophy here in India? How can you possibly do this? He said, that is your dilemma. He said, let me explain something. He said, like you, I was just wandering through this town. He said, I came across this town and I was thinking, okay, I'm going to have a rest here. But then I heard that there was a bit of commotion. The butcher had died and they were trying to nominate another butcher to take his place. And they were looking for somebody who wanted to do the job. And they were having difficulty. So I thought to myself, these poor animals in this compound are going to suffer tremendously at the hands of a worldly butcher, one who has no kindness and compassion and knows not how to dispatch those animals without pain. And then he volunteered, I'll take the job. And the reason he took the job was because he could put those animals to sleep before he cut them. He could remove the pain and suffering, so at least those animals didn't suffer. He said, out of compassion, immense compassion for the animals, I took this job because I could not walk past knowing full well that some real butcher is going to come and disrespectfully kill them and cut them up. He says, so I took this job out of compassion. And then he realized that maybe what he had thought about the truth and about the path is not as it seems, that love and compassion and kindness trumps everything. And that these rules and regulations that are put in place are not based on love or kindness or compassion. They're based upon corporate ideals, rule books, that you have to look the part, act the part, according to the human understanding. He said the Lord has created the animals and the humans. He said we are all living together. Everybody has an equal respect. He said, just as I take care of my disciples, I take care of these animals. He said, what is the difference? They all have souls. So then he became his disciple and rose to quite some rank, in there. But that's the story of the butcher saint, to demonstrate the fact that saints can come from any background. They could be a villain even. Even Hazur Maharaji used to say that maybe even a villain can become a saint. There's no bar to this. A great master is known to have taken villains on board and they changed their ways, obviously. They don't continue with their villainy, but their past has no reflection on their present. So it doesn't matter what somebody's past background is, when they're marked to become a teacher because they have the attributes, the ability, the skills, and in the right place, then those ones are chosen just to show the egotists, the arrogant ones, that it's the Lord who decides everything, not you. It's not because you're somehow better person, you're living this noble life, that's just your karma. What difference does it make between a sinner and a saint? They're both playing their part equally well. That's not the basis for a saint. A real perfect living master is one who is able to transmit that teaching to a people who is marked for them. They happen to be in the right place, the right time. It doesn't matter their background, because that imperfect one becomes perfect. The master is like the philosopher's stone that turns lead into gold. So when a villain even comes into the company of a saint, he can transform him into, like him, a gold. So this is the moral of the story. For all those satsangis and those followers who think that they are better than others, look down upon others who are not on the path, and so on, and judgment. Judgment is a sure way of not going to such khan. Judgment belongs to kal and karma and the negative power. As you judge, so shall ye be judged. So, even if you're an initiate, if you embark upon the judgment role, you have to come back again, no matter how much practice you do. That's the moral of the story.
Thank you. That is the last question.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for being patient. Sorry to keep you, and I'm sure you're hungry for your lunch now. So, God bless, and hopefully we'll see you again. Thank you.
So dehi paje har ki sev pajo gobind pul mat ja मानस जन्म का यही लाभ